For my final Camino video, I want to thank all the pilgrims that I met along the way, 170 of them from over 40 countries. They made my journey so much more fulfilling. Thanks also to all those who took the time to answer my interview questions. Finally, thanks to those of you who joined me by watching the journey. Let's look back and see some of those special moments and hear some fantastic Camino stories.
We haven't really started yet, so I don't really have any stories to tell, except that just the trip in itself to get here was fantastic. It's, in Australia, we have trains that can achieve speeds of up to about 60 kilometres per hour. And we came here on a train that was doing 320 kilometres per hour, and that was fabulous for me. And then changed trains to a train that was just a 1 hour trip up to this amazing town, and the whole thing has just been stunningly beautiful so far, and the experience of the town and the people has been fabulous.
We were in an albergue in the middle of nowhere. No village around it. It was in the flatlands. The albergue was full. Once everybody was there, the rain started, and we had some terrible thunderstorms moving through. About 6 o'clock, there's a knock on the door, and a mother and her son were doing the Camino, and they were tapped out there in the thunderstorm. And the hospitalero let them in to dry off and rest and get out of the storm for a while, and help them get warm. Once the thunderstorms moved on, it was still pouring rain out, but they still had about 3 miles to go, and they got back on the road and headed off to where their reservation and their bags were. And the next morning, I stopped at that village for breakfast, and the place I walked into, they were having breakfast too. And they made it safe and sound, and I was happy to see that.
You meet many interesting people, many nice people, strange Canadians, and yeah, it's always fun to meet people. That's also something that makes this Camino a bit different and more special than many other hikes, because there are just so many people on the road, and people are very friendly. They all share the same aim to get to Santiago. So there's always something to talk about, and that's pretty nice. Yeah.
And the other day we rocked up to a local village, a very small village along the Camino. We stayed there for the night, and it just so happened the night we were staying there, they were holding their yearly village festival, and we got to join in with them, partying till 4 a.m, dancing out with the local, the children's, the grandmas, everyone, and they're all having a great time. I think the Camino is full of wonderful experiences just like that. Yeah.
Well, I feel like the entire Camino is just a story. I mean, there's not really one story I'll just pick out, because there's so many fun things that we've done. Going place to place, the conversations you have with people you've never met before, and then all of a sudden you're talking about what weapon you're using in the apocalypse. But also going to ruins, seeing new cities, making pasta. I mean, very fun. One story that was very fun is that we went to Bayas, which is a city, the first one after Championnaport. And then after that, we didn't reserve a spot to sleep in. So we had to skip a couple of towns until we actually got a sleeping spot, which was then all the way in Pamplona. So instead of walking the 25 kilometers that we intended to walk that day, we had to walk 42.
I'd hoped to walk every single step from the Puy de Santiago, but I got very lost early on in France. I had walked many kilometers in the woods and on these farms. And I met this old municipal worker guy who, very nice man, he kind of drove me back to the place that I should have been. So maybe it limits my Camino credibility. I stepped in a car, but he did help me find the way again. So I'd already walked many extra kilometers that day, so I was thankful for him. Lovely guy. So that was a highlight of my time in France. Yeah, good experience. So
meeting Kathy on her birthday, surprising her. I made the journey from Palma, Mallorca to Framista, and then I stayed a town ahead, and then the following day was her birthday, and I waited along for her. I knew where she'd be coming, and it was nice seeing her. Like, she'd been on the journey for 16 days at that point, so it was a nice surprise, like, to see her, and yeah, she wasn't expecting it. Lovely.
I forget what day it was, but we're walking and it was really hot and we were going through this town and we just wanted some water from somewhere. We couldn't really find any. And there was this lady whose name was Maggie, not Maddie, and she invited us into her albergue and we were asking for a drink and she's like, no, like telling us to sit. And then we sat down and she's trying to give us soup and we're like, no, like we don't want any soup. It was the best fucking soup of my life. It was so good. And then she gave us pineapple juice as well, and then she wouldn't let us pay, and she told us that we both reminded her of her daughters and that she would have wanted someone to do the same for her daughters if they were travelling. But all of this was in very broken Spanish, English, Google Translate. And then we tried to buy a drink off her because we were just trying to find a way to give her money. She wouldn't accept it. So then we left with lemonade as well. And it was for free. Just had a free lunch that day, but it was really beautiful. And I think this whole trip has just been like that, you know, it's the unexpected spots.
Probably my favorite was the Singing Nuns. It's a convent partway through the Camino. You can stay at the convent. We didn't. We stayed at a nicer, it was actually a monastery hotel. And so what that entailed was, initially was a service just by the nuns, some singing, some prayer reading, some Bible reading, and we sat near the front. So we were almost a part of it because we actually sat in seats I think the nuns would have sat in, but they sat behind us and gave them a hymnal, and they gave us a Bible at one point while they were doing a reading from there. So yeah, that was neat. And then we went to the albergue and there was about 40 people. And so they sang a bunch of songs, but also gave an opportunity for anybody who had a song to sing. There was a Canadian who sang kind of a folk song. Some South Koreans sang a song, and then we sang songs in a bunch of different languages, mostly Christian songs, but even John Denver's Country Road, Take Me Home, we sang that. So that was a lot of fun, that sing around. They also went around and we introduced ourselves and told why we were on Camino, which was interesting. And then we went back to the service for a kind of mass, and with a Eucharist and all. And then after that they had a Pilgrim's blessing and gave out these stars, which unfortunately since then I've lost my star. That was my favorite by far. I totally enjoyed that whole experience. So that would be my top and lasting memory of the Camino.
I met two mad Canadians yesterday, and I'm trying to get away from them.